I thought I would like to demonstrate next the chopping pattern. And the chopping pattern is a combination of bilateral asymmetrical upper extremity patterns. And it is combined with the neck flexion pattern. If you were teaching someone, you would emphasize the extension abduction pattern of the arm, and the other arm is just going to go along with it. So to start, I'm going to get her head in pattern, and I'm going to have her extend and abduct her right arm, and the left arm is going to go with it. Lift up and reach down. And this is chopping with neck flexion. And she's going on down here, and I'm going to approximate her. And what I'm really interested in is getting trunk. I'm not biting the arms. That has nothing to do with it. I'm using the arms to bring in trunk, which I think and hope you can see. Okay, let me do it from the other side. And when I do it from the other side, I change my grips. I'm going to be doing extension, abduction. I'm going to get her head in pattern, and we're going to chop. Let's go down, don't, keep your arm down. Down, turn it, that's the girl. Now, right down here. And again, I'm not interested in what the arms are doing. I'm interested in what I'm getting out of the trunk. I only do this pattern when the arms are good. And there are certainly many, many patients, particularly paraplegics, who have little or no trunk, but they need and have good arms. And you strengthen them, and then you get them in this position, and you're after trunk. It's not just an arm pattern. I'd like to show you this sitting, because I personally like to do it sitting, because again you can see a lot of emphasis on trunk. And I start her again, get your wrist up and come down. And I'm approximating, and hopefully you can see that it's her trunk that's working. I'm not fighting her arms. And I could do this from both sides. And if I were treating a patient, I would do it from both sides. Okay, next I'd like to show you lifting. And a lifting pattern is a bilateral asymmetrical extensive pattern. And when you're doing lifting, your emphasis is on your flexion abduction pattern. This arm just goes along, hanging on to the other one. And the head goes into extension. So I start from stretch, lift up, head back, and I come to here so that we're doing lifting. Now this is a trunk pattern. Just keep that in mind. I'm not fighting her arms, because if I fight her arms, I'm just getting arms. And I'm not interested in that when I'm trying to emphasize trunk. And I'll demonstrate it from the other side so that you can see lift up. And I must be here. Remember when I did the neck? If I don't get her coming toward me, I'm not really getting what I want. So I'll do it again. Lift up and head back, and here we are. And I'm after trunk. This is what I'm after. So we go on into extension of both arms with extension of the neck. And I'd like to demonstrate this sitting. And we're going to go toward this side, and I'm going to get her head in. Remember what I said about wrists? This is very important. So she's going to get her wrist up and her head up, and she's going toward the left side. Head over more. And again, this is a trunk pattern. Let's do it the other way. Might show a little better. Come this way. Okay. Now, wrist up, head back, and over. And I'm getting good trunk extension. And personally, you never get trunk extension in most patients. There isn't very much good done for trunk. Next, I'd like to demonstrate lower trunk patterns. And as is true in all patterns, lower trunk can be a straight leg pattern, and I'm going to start with extension. I'm going to have her extend, and hopefully I'd be getting at the beginning the quadratus, and then I end up with, or go through the process of getting back extension, and then finally quadratus again. So this is trunk, lower trunk extension. Toes down, all right, and over to me. Okay, I'm going to have her go the opposite direction, which means toes up, and I'm trying to get lower trunk flexion. Do it again. Down, and let's go up again. Toes up, toes, toes. Okay. I don't think we need to do that to the other side. Okay, next I'd like to show you a lower trunk flexion pattern in which the knees bend. Now I sacrifice to a degree the grip and the hold by not just putting my hands on top as she goes through, because I think it's very important that her knees be kept together. Otherwise, I'm just doing bilateral hip flexor patterns, and I don't want that. I want the trunk. I believe strongly that trunk patterns are more important than anything else we do. So pull up and bend your knees. And don't turn them so much. I don't like that. Okay. Okay, let's go again. There we go. That's better. That first one was too much that, okay? Okay, we'll do it again. Pull up. And the reason I'm keeping my hand under here, although I preach pressure, is that when I put my pressure up here, the knees separate and I can't hold them together. I like to keep them tight, pull up. And that was good. Okay, now I'll do the opposite. Same thing, toes down and kick to me. So we're doing extension of both hips with knee extension. And let's do that once more. Pull up. And then kick down. And pull up. And kick down. And that's your lower trunk patterns using the legs. You could make other combinations, but usually these are the things, in my experience, that work the best for the patient. Now, it does mean that if I were treating the patient, I wouldn't just do this side. I'd get over here and do it this way. Same thing, same principle, involving the knees, ankle and toes. But I think that gives you an idea of what we really mean by lower trunk patterns. Start. I thought I'd next demonstrate all of the leg patterns. When you think of legs like the upper extremity, you have 4 diagonal patterns. You have 2 flexor patterns and 2 extensor patterns, both of which can have the knee flex or the knee extend, or it can be done with straight leg. First, I'm going to demonstrate flexion, adduction, ADD, straight leg, and it's important to remember that on the lower extremity, the grips and the holds are very important in getting the patient to do what you want. And when I do ankle, for example, I feel I should have the pressure, and maybe I should show you on this side what I'm doing with my thumb. That's the grip for flexion, adduction. And anything different either hurts or it really doesn't give the proper stimulus. Now, for this pattern, no matter what I do, whether the knee bends or extends, the grip I just showed you is extremely important. So first we're going to do a straight leg pattern. And remember, these are diagonal in direction and toes up, and we're going into flexion, adduction. Now, that direction, not up here, but adduction. Let's do it again to show them. Now, ankle and toes up, and we're going into, now, pressure, not only the grip on but the pressure should be here. And I'm giving resistance this direction. And maybe I should do that again and emphasize where you should be standing when you do this. I should be standing here, pull up, Aura. And I should be here when I give the resistance. And I should give resistance here. Pull it up again. Now pull it up again. So we're going that direction. Okay, next I'm going to show you the same pattern with knee flexion. Ankle and toes up, and we're going into same grip on the foot, same resistance here, except that this time she's bending the knee. And you have flexion, adduction with knee flexion. I'll do it once more. Pull up. And there we are. And notice I take a step when I go with her. I don't just stand here flat-footed like so many people do. But now I'm going to do flexion, adduction with knee extension. Go. And we still end up, she and I, in flexion, adduction, toes up, and the adductor part. It looks like the straight leg pattern when you have finished extending the knee and you end up in flexion and adduction. I don't know, maybe I should show this last one from this side so that you can see where the knee is going. I still should stand here. And I've got the grip. Now kick up and in. And we're going into flexion, adduction. My thumb should still be on the side. And let's do it once more. Ankle and toes up. And we end up into flexion, adduction with knee extension. I think the others you could see fairly well. Okay, I'll do the opposite of that pattern now. And the opposite of flexion, adduction is extension, abduction. First I'll do straight leg pattern, push down and out. And the pressure is here and here. And I must give resistance up here, or I'm really not getting hip pushed down. And I'm going into extension, abduction with partial internal rotation. Okay. When I'm up here, the next thing I can do is extend and abduct and flex the hip. Push down and out and bend your knee. All right. Now bend your knee. Bend your knee. There we go. So that we have extension, abduction, and knee flexion. Go. And my pressure is here. My pressure is on the bottom of the foot. And the command should be, get your hip down and bend your knee. And we end up here. Okay, the third part of that pattern is extension, abduction with knee extension. And this is a postural kind of pattern in which you get mass extension. So this time, I'm still resisting the hip, kick down and out. We're doing extension, abduction with knee extension. Let's do it once more. Kick down. And don't do that. Don't ever do that. Get it out. So you're abducting. Okay, we have two other diagonals of the lower extremity. Maybe I should do that. One with knee flexion and extension, abduction here so you can see it a little better. No, knee flexion. Now, kick down and bend your knee. Bend it, bend it. There we go. I'm still in the way, I think. Push down and bend it. That's the pattern. Okay. Back to the other two diagonal patterns. Flexion, abduction. And we're going to do a straight leg pattern first. And you notice the feet are just as important as the wrist. And the first thing I want her to do is get her ankle and toes up. So I've got my pressure here, and she's going to flex. She's going to get her toes up. She's going to flex and abduct her hip with her knee straight. Let's go. And this brings in internal rotation. Let's do it once more. Up and out. Good. Okay, we'll just move right on into the next part. This time bend it, please. Let's go. And we're doing flexion, abduction with knee flexion. Same grip on the toes, and again the same comment, bend it. Move with the patient. So you're not just standing down there in their way. Okay, you have to move down a little, Ara. Then I'm going to do flexion, abduction with knee extension. So I have to start with it flexed, toes do the same thing, and toes up and kick. And we end up with flexion, abduction with knee extension. Toes are still up. Once more. Up. And there we are, as far as the pattern in that diagonal. You want to move back? Okay, we have one more diagonal. There are 4 diagonals for all these joints. And this diagonal is here and not out here. Oh, I see so many people doing it like this, I could cry. I like to, it's an extensive pattern, and you must have tension on the opposite side. So kick down and in and turn your heel. And it's extension, adduction with external rotation with plantar flexion, inversion. And you notice I'm not putting my fingers on top. Relax. I think it's very important, push down, that your pressure be under the toes and under the foot. Okay, we'll do it once more. Straight leg, down and in. And that's your straight leg extension, adduction pattern. Then we'll do, relax, relax. We're going to do extension, adduction with knee extension. See, we have, the knee is a pivot, a hinge joint, and it has two actions. So you can put it together with the whole pattern. So this time I'm going to ask her to kick down in the end. And I'm still going to do extension, adduction with external rotation, with plantar flexion. But the knee is coming in, kick down and in. And it's very important, by the way, that you get under here. I see so many people doing it this way. And that ain't good, because you can't resist the rotation. Kick down and in, this way. Then when I get there, I can do what I'm supposed to do, which is resist the rotation. Now, would you move down, her, please? The third possibility in this pattern is extension, adduction with knee flexion. So I'm going to start with it straight, and she's going to bring in the same motion of the foot. She's going to get the hip down, and she's going to bend the knee as we go down into extension. Let's go. Bend it more. So we're here. Okay, let's do that again. Okay, kick down and in and bend it. Good. And I'm lifting up here, I'm resisting here, and I'm getting the hamstrings. And that gives you your 4 diagonal patterns of the hip and of the lower extremity with the possible combinations of knee flexion, knee extension, or straight leg. We did them all. I'd like to next talk about timing. Now, timing is maybe not a good word for what I'm really going to describe, but for lack of a better word, I'd like to describe what we consider timing to be. We always use strong parts to reinforce the weaker parts. So we devised this whole process called timing, in which we have 3 different parts. We have a strong part, we have a pivot, and the pivot is the joint, a moving part. If it's a shoulder, or if it's the knee, or if it's a foot, then that is what the pivot represents, or the neck. If the neck is moving, then it's a neck pivot. If the neck is staying put, it's a trunk pivot. So the pivot is the moving part. Now, there are 2 ways of doing timing, and I'd like to demonstrate both of them. If, for example, I put the patient's part in the stretched, elongated position and ask them to do, let's say, the strong shoulder, even if I just resist the shoulder and leave the wrist free, lift up, You notice her wrist comes up. Well, that's automatic because I'm not letting everything else happen. Okay, I can, as a result of this, give the same command, preventing the motion of the pattern, and resist the distal part, lift up. And this is my pivot. This is the moving part, and that's the part I'm going to be resisting. I can do it this way. Let's say I'm asking her to pull her arm into extension, adduction, pull it, ooey. And we have flexion coming in. And then I can do the same thing, pull, and I can resist the wrist. And again, this is the moving part. On the leg, I can prevent motion of a leg pattern, pull. And let's say as a result, her foot's going to come up if it can, or her knee is going to come in. Anything to substitute. That's the first way you do timing. I'll show you here. Pull up. See her foot come in because I'm not letting this happen. And that's the moving part. And this is a training process for patients so that they can feel what is moving. And if you do repetition of these pivots, then the patient usually has a good learning process. I want to show you her neck, where I can get her, lift up. I can get her neck here and not let it move anymore. Keep pulling. And you see what happens? I'm getting the pivot of the trunk with her head. Okay, that's the first way. The second way, I can take the part, I can have the patient pull to the strongest point in the range. And at that point, I stop the motion and I have the patient pull into whatever motion I want. This is the way I can isolate all of the motions of a given pattern. And I'll demonstrate this. Pull up and out and pull. And I think you can see I'm getting knee flexion. And I'm not letting the hip move, but just a little bit. And at the same time, her ankle's coming in. So I have gone to the strongest point. At the strongest point, I stop her, and then I get the next motion coming in. I'll do it again. Pull up. Now pull up. And the moving part, the pivot, right now is her knee flexor. I can lock the knee flexor and just get foot if I were strong enough. And this I've locked, and now I'm getting the ankle pivot. Let me show you on the arm. I'm going to have her go to a strong point in the range, and when you're doing this, you must keep the patient bringing in everything in a pattern. You can't just say, and listen to the command I'm giving. I have not said, and now pull your foot up, and now bend your knee. And I'm not going to say, and now get your wrist up. I'm going to say to Ara, keep pulling, and keep pulling, and keep pulling. Pull harder on your shoulder. Pull and pull. But this is what I'm resisting, and this is the pivot. In other words, the moving part. And I'm getting help from her strong shoulder. And as I say, the pivot may not be a good word, but for lack of better, this is what we mean when we talk about timing and timing for emphasis. We're making the strong groups help the weak groups. Now, let's say if I had a shoulder that was painful or weak, I can do the timing in the other direction. Her wrist is okay, let's assume. So this time I'm going to get her wrist up, lift up, and keep Keep it up. And I haven't told her to do anything about her shoulder, but she's all ready to do it because I've given maximal resistance at this point. And this is timing from distal to proximal. And the other kind that I did was from proximal to distal. But you can do it either way. But the main thing about timing and getting pivots is to get strong muscle groups to help the weak ones. It's up to you as a therapist to make this happen. Ara cannot just lift her head up and make her abdominals work stronger unless I do something to keep it. Until I give her the resistance and I force it in, then I can make her get this. And this is timing, neck or trunk. I'm not moving the neck, I'm locking the neck, and I'm making the trunk work. And in a way, when I did chopping and lifting, these things were also a good example of using strong arms to get trunk. Okay, next I'd like to talk about repeated contractions. Now, there are two ways, again, of doing repeated contractions. One way, and I talked about this earlier, one way, and I demonstrated this earlier, one way is to do repetition of the stretch reflex. And I just keep repeating it, and I keep repeating it, and I keep repeating it with my patient synchronizing the motion with me. Okay, but there are patients, for example, who, after you do this, can start contracting and pulling through certain part of the range, and because of that, I think we need to do repeated stretch. As long as the muscle is pulling, I can pull it down again and re-stretch it. I can't if the patient pulls and quits. No way. But if she keeps pulling and she keeps pulling, then I can stretch it again and have her do repetitious contractions of a given pattern. And I'll demonstrate. Pull up and pull up again and pull up and pull up and pull up. And each time that I tell her to pull up, I really goofed. I should say pull up again. Not just pull up, not just pull up. And I'll do it over to show. For example, pull up and pull up again and pull up again and pull up again. Each one of these times that she pulls after I stretch her, there are new efforts on her part. It's not one pull up, one long hard pull, because that's fatiguing. But if I have her pull up and pull up again and pull up again and pull up again, I have stretched her with the muscle contracting repetitiously so that she's getting repeated stretch through the range of motion. Let me demonstrate this on the arm. Instead of just letting her pull up and do what she can. And incidentally, repeated contractions does not have to be done on people who can't do very much. It can be done on people like normals that you want to increase the strength and increase their ability, because when you do repeated contractions, they can do many more contractions. And I'll show you. Lift up, now lift up again, get your wrist up, lift up again, lift up again, lift up again, and lift up again. Okay, lift up. See how bad that is? But I did something for her by repetitiously re-stretching. Lift up and lift up again and lift up again and lift up again. And what I'm doing is I'm having her pull, I'm stretching her, I'm easing up, and I'm letting her go. I'm stretching her again, I'm easing up, and letting her go. So this is what we mean by repeated contraction. It can be done in any pattern, in any situation in which you wish to increase the strength, increase the endurance, and get your patient doing more. I don't know any patient who can't do it if we do it correctly. Next, I'd like to demonstrate contract, relax. We have a series of relaxation techniques, which I'll try to demonstrate for you. In contract, relax, we're doing an isotonic muscle contraction. You remember earlier I said you have to divide this between what kinds of contractions you're doing. In contract, relax, you're doing an isotonic muscle contraction. It's based on isotonic muscle contraction. Now, the general rule for all relaxation techniques is for me to take the part to the point of limitation. And at the point of limitation, then I start doing the technique. It's very important, I feel, that we passively take it to the point of limitation, or I might even say below. I won't take it till it hurts. I take her to the point where I feel tension. And at this point, I'm going to have her do an isotonic contraction into the direction of tightness. Very important. Always remember you start by going into the direction of the limitation. And it's also important that I not let her move very far, because I want to keep her in as close to where she's limited as possible. I don't want her to just push her leg down here, because when I come back, it's still going to be tight or limited where I started. But I'm going to have her contract in that direction with just a little bit of range. And primarily, the range consists of all the components of the pattern. Now, I'm not passively stretching. I don't believe in it. I have never believed in it. And this is what we do instead of passively stretching. You can't passively stretch and do contract, relax at the same time either. So I've got her now where I feel tension. And I'm going to have her kick down and in, or kick your hip down. And let go. Then I'm going to have her relax. And I'm going to wait. I'm relaxed. And I'm going to wait for her. Then I'm going to move the part in the opposite pattern, emphasizing rotation. Push down and in and turn it. And let go. Now watch. When I take it up, I'm turning it the opposite way. Okay, kick down and in. And let go. Let go. The hardest part is the relaxation. But then I move her. And I just keep, after she relaxes, I keep moving her. And I move her. Now this is not just a technique for relaxing hamstrings. It just happens that most normals have hamstrings, and it's nice to demonstrate on. But this could be for any muscle group that's tight. Let's say if the latissimus is tight. Then I can get in this pattern and pull down and out, and I can have her pull and bring the scapula and the latissimus in. Now let go. Then I move her. So I don't want to leave you with the impression that I'm demonstrating to you a hamstrings only relaxation technique. tenser, I can hold your leg up. I'd lock the pelvis. If this is tight, then I'm going to have her do the whole pattern, ankle and toes up. And now let go. And then I move her into the opposite pattern so that you can relax any muscle group. If her adductors and flexors were tight, I can do this pattern. Now let go. Then I take her into extension, abduction. And that's the technique of contract, relax that I have found to be almost invaluable in working with patients. The next technique I'd like to demonstrate is one called hold relax. As in contrast to the one I just demonstrated of contract, relax, this is a technique that is based on isometric muscle contractions. And if you recall, I said earlier that isometric muscle contractions are hold contractions, which means that in giving maximal resistance to such a contraction, you need to start with a little bit of resistance and increase to build up the tension as far as the patient is concerned. In this technique, no motion occurs. However, the same principles apply. If I want to increase range of motion, I take the part to the point of limitation, and at this point, I would do an isometric contraction, which means that I'm going to put R's, put in toes in flexion. I'm going to have her hold her leg into extension, adduction, but no motion's going to occur. I'm just going to match and equal what I want her to do. I'm not going to give any command to move. I'm just going to put her there and say, keep it there. Keep it right there. Don't push on me. Now let go. She's just holding. She relaxes, and then I move her. Now I put her toes down again. I put her in pattern, and I say, hold it there. Or don't move it, just hold it. And then I have her relax, and then I move it. This technique is not only good for increasing range of motion, but it's excellent for pain problems. If I had a patient with pain, and she told me she had pain when she went into this pattern, I would start doing hold relax in a range where she had no pain, and hopefully by the time I get to the point where she has pain, then everything would be much better. So if she told me she had pain when she got here, I'd put her up here and I'd say, do you have any pain? And she says no, then that's where I'd start. And I'd again put her toes down and I'd have her hold and let go. Then I'd move her down a little bit and I'd say, hold. And I'm giving her all the resistance I can give her. But in pain problems, I would keep saying to the patient, does it hurt? I don't want to do anything that increases the pain or reproduces the pain. I want to do hold relax in different parts of the range where she has no pain so that I can work through. A good example, we work with necks. We work with lots of neck problems. I would ask Aura where her pain was in her neck, and if she said, when I get it way back like that, and I'd get it up here, and I'd ask her, does it hurt up here? And I'm going, relax. Now I'm going to put her into the pattern. I'm going to get her chin up, I'm going to get her head back, and I'm going to match what she does. Don't let me push it back. Or don't let me push it up. Now let it go. Then I'd move it a little bit. Relax. And I'd have her hold it, and don't let me push it down, and let go. And I'd work through different parts of the range, always being very careful that I'm not working in the painful range. If it's a shoulder, again, I'd do, maybe the patient doesn't hurt down here at all. So I'd put her in pattern, and I'd have her keep it in pattern. Keep your wrist up. Don't move it, just hold it, and let go. Then I'd move it a little bit. Now don't let me push it down, and let go. And does that hurt? Then I'd put it here, and I'd match it, and then I'd relax it. And I'd try to do all of this in pain-free areas at different points in the range to relax the muscles so that we can get her enough relaxed that she can move it herself. And this technique is more difficult to do than contract relax, mostly because isometric muscle contractions require absolute concentration and cooperation from the patient. But it is a good technique in such situations, and that's the way we use it. And next I'd like to demonstrate a technique called rhythmic stabilization. In this technique, it's based on isometric contractions also. It's a difficult technique for patients because you have to teach them how to do isometric muscle contractions. And as I just said earlier, isometric contractions require much more concentration on the part of the patient. Now, to do this technique, we always start with an isotonic muscle contraction, and then we move into alternating isometric contractions, which I'll demonstrate. Start, and I'm going to have her pull up and out to me, and at the strongest point in the range, or at a good point in the range, whatever, I'm going to start having her hold, and I'm matching her. And then I'm going to have her hold opposite way, and I'm going to alternate the holds, alternate my hands too, and alternate the holds. Just hold it, Ira, and hold it. And it's very important you hold different with your pressure, different ways, and hold. And then from the last hold on the side I wish to emphasize, lift up, I'm going to have her pull on into an isotonic muscle contraction. The best way to do this technique is to start with the strongest pattern, and at the strongest point in the strongest pattern, do your hold and alternate them. We'll demonstrate this on the arm. Let's assume that her extension-adduction pattern is the strongest. So I'm going to have her pull down with isotonic. Now hold it. And just keep it there. And don't let me push it down. Keep it up. And don't let me pull it up. And don't let me push it down. Now pull it up. From that last hold of the weaker of the two, I move on into an isotonic muscle contraction. This technique works best in my experience, with patients who have pain problems, or patients who have no neurological problems. Unfortunately, people with neurological problems have a great deal of difficulty holding. I'll demonstrate this on the neck because it can be a good technique for people with neck problems. And let's assume that her neck flexors are weaker. So I'm going to start her, push back with extensors. Push your head back like that. Push. And I'm going to have her hold right here. And then I'm going to have her hold in flexors. And I'm going to have her hold in extensors. And I'm going to have her hold in flexors. Now, pull your chin down. And then I go into the isotonic contraction of the flexors, if that happens to be the weaker part. One of the things I say about this technique is that you do have to teach the patient. And you have to teach them specifically and carefully. Otherwise, you can create some problems which aren't so desirable. But I feel it's a pretty far advanced technique for the majority of the patients that we treat. It never works on hemis. It never works on head injuries. It works mostly on those people without neurological problems who need to be strengthened or to be relaxed. It's a relaxation technique as well as a strengthening technique. I can do rhythmic stabilization, for example, as a relaxation technique, just like I did the others, by starting right here. And in this situation, I'm going to start holding. Hold it on the tight side, hold it up, and then on the other side, and the tight side, and the other side, and the tight side, and the other side. Now pull it up. Then I have her go into the antagonistic pattern. Just one other comment about this. Rhythmic stabilization, being a technique that is sort of complex, I think you have to be careful that when you're doing this, that you're not letting the patient pull and push and pull and push. They must be what we've named it, stabilizing the part. And that, I think, is one of the big secrets.